Hello everyone, welcome back. And in this video we are going to build our first app, have input and output text boxes, and understand more about Bubble and how we can build a front end for our paraphraser API. And go to the design tab. This is where we will be building most of the things. So what we need initially is an input box, and input box where you can enter some text that is actually multi-line input. So let's click on that, then you can drag and drop and create an input box. Enter any text here, so automatically this pops up. Let's change this to text input so that it is clear. Now we have one input box. If you just double click on that, you get this. So this is basically the property editor where you can add things, etc. Now let's create an output box as well. So output is basically a text box, unlike an input, multi-line input. And so this, let's rename this as text output. So this is text input and this is text output, so that's clear for us. And the beautiful thing is that you can use dynamic text. So for example, instead of having some text here that is random, you can insert dynamic data, and let's point it to text inputs value. So what this is doing is, this is the text input, the left side text box, and we are just mimicking the output text to just resemble the input text that we have. Let's test this out in action. So you can click on preview once you're done with editing. Let's go to preview. As you can see, we have version test and our app name here. So if you connect to any other website like question.ai or supermeme.ai, that gets in here once you upgrade to the paid plan. But you can pretty much test out everything just on the unpaid version as well. Okay, it took a little bit of time. For some reason Bubble is slow, but we are finally here. So the left text box is highlighted, but the right text box is not, but it will be visible when we type something. So let's type hi, I'm Ramsri. As you can see, whatever we type in the left text box is visible on the right. I am from Hyderabad. Great. So what we have done here is we created a multi-line input, that is the left text box, that is text input, and we have another text output that is actually the text element, and we have made this text element's value to be dynamic instead of static. So it is dynamically reading from text input and getting its value. So whatever is present here, that is mimicked here. Now in order to just understand a little bit about styling, let's change the style properties of this output text box and input text box so that it will be visible to you how you can change. So first of all, double click on this, then you have style here, remove style, and border styles is none, that's why you are unable to see it. But let's click solid border, width of 2, and perhaps pick a color like dark blue, and roundedness is 2. Great. Okay, let's do the same thing here, where we are removing the style here, and solid border roundedness, and it already has some let's change this to the same color probably, and width of 2, roundedness of 2, let's say. Now let's again click on preview. As you can see, now both the text boxes are very visible because we changed the style. And I'm typing hi, I'm Ramsri again, and you can see that it is directly seen here. So this is our very basic app input and output text box. Now let's add some bells and whistles to it. So first of all, this value is directly read from here, but let's make that happen only on a button click. So let's grab a button and place it here, and let's call it generate, button generate. That's what this is called as. And let's preview how this looks. Okay, we have the generate button, and we have text input and text output, but these text boxes and this button are not connected at all. Nothing happens when you click on this. So let's do this. You can enter some text, click on generate, only then this populates to the output box. Let's make that thing happen. So first of all, we are on this page. This page is index page, as you can see, and if you click anywhere outside and double click, it will bring up the property editor for index page. And we are going to create something called as custom state. So click on I here, custom state, add a new custom state. Let's call this input text, and the type is text, and create this. So it's almost like you're creating a global variable for this page, index page. That's what we have done. So if you just double click anywhere outside, you get the index page, and when you click on here, you see that we have already created a custom state that is input text of type text, and you can create more if you want. But from a programmatic perspective, we have just created a global variable that is of type text named as input text for this index page. And why did we do that? Because instead of this output text box directly reading from the input text box, if you want to just populate the output text box on button click, rather we want to store the input text onto the global variable, and the output text will read from the global variable. So instead of having a direct connection from output to input as we have here, which is text inputs value, rather we will change this to read from global variables value what we created. And of course we are using programmatic terms, so that's why it's called that, but otherwise it's called as custom state. So let's change this to indexes input text. So that's what we are calling it. So instead of this text box directly pointing to text input, we changed it to indexes input text. This is the custom state that we created. You can kind of assume it like a global variable for this page. So it's just a placeholder that we created. And whenever someone clicks on generate, we want to push the text that is here to that global variable or placeholder, so that the output box reads from that. Let's try to make this happen. So how do you make this happen is basically you double click on this generate button, and click on start or edit workflow. And you can see that automatically from design tab we switch to workflow. And whenever this button is clicked, what do we want to create? We want to set state of element index and custom state input. And what's the value? The value is actually text inputs value. So whenever this button is clicked, we are setting the global variable of the index page, that is index page's custom state, that is input text. And what is the value that we are setting? The value that we are setting is with left text box input, that is text inputs value. That's about it. Now you can switch back to design tab and close everything and preview. Now let's enter, hi, my name is Ramsri. As you can see, the output text box is not directly reading from this input text box. It is rather reading from the index pages variable that we created. So since that is empty, nothing is here. But what should happen on button click? Whenever you click on generate, as you can see, the input is populated to output. Because whenever we click on generate, we created a workflow where we are setting the state of indexes input text to text inputs value, and the output box is reading from the text input value. So instead of having a direct connection from output text box to input text box, we are now routing through a variable, and that variable is only updated whenever you click on generate. Now imagine once you click on generate, instead of populating from this input text box to output text box directly, we can call the summarization or paraphrasing API, whatever we create, and the input text will be paraphrased, and that paraphrased text will be shown, will be stored on the global variable or placeholder, and that same value will be shown on the right side as well.